The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
All right, so we're diving into this alux.com video, 15 secrets only billionaires know. And I gotta say, it's a pretty intriguing title, right? Like, who wouldn't want to know those secrets? But we're not just here to daydream about yachts and private islands, right? We're digging into this to see what practical insights we can glean no matter what our financial goals are.
Exactly. It's all about uncovering those golden nuggets of wisdom that can help us think differently about wealth and success.
Totally. So Alex kicks things off with this myth buster that really caught my attention. They say most billionaires didn't actually build their fortune by owning 100% of a business. In fact, it's often the opposite.
It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think they'd want total control, but there's a strategic reason why they're often content with a smaller slice of a much larger pie.
So instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, they're spreading their risk and tapping into a wider range of expertise.
Precisely. And they're often doing this through private equity, which Alex.com argues is the real path to exponential wealth, not the dumb millionaire game of real estate.
Hold on, dumb millionaire game. Now, I've always heard that real estate is like the key to building wealth. So tell me more about this.
Well, it can be, but it usually requires a ton of upfront capital, and it's not always easy to sell quickly if you need cash.
Right, it's not very liquid.
Exactly. Billionaires tend to prefer investments that are more liquid and have the potential for explosive growth. Which brings us back to private equity. Instead of owning apartment buildings, they're buying pieces of promising companies, often in their early stages.
So it's like they're placing bets on the next Amazon or Tesla before everyone else catches on.
Exactly. And this is where Alux drops another knowledge bomb, the power of OPM, other people's money.
Now, I've heard of OPM, but I feel like Alex breaks it down in a way that's surprisingly relatable, even if you're not exactly rolling in millions.
Right. They use the example of a startup getting funding.
Okay.
So let's say you've got this amazing business idea. You go to friends, family, maybe some angel investors, and you secure what's called a seed round of funding. This initial investment, even if it's relatively small, immediately assigns a value to your company.
So even though you haven't made a single dollar in profit, yet your company is officially worth something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that valuation is key, because now you can use that number to attract larger investors in subsequent rounds of funding, often called Series A, Series B, and so on. Each round typically increases your company's valuation, even if you, the founder, are giving away small pieces of equity along the way.
Okay, so it's like each round of funding is adding fuel to the fire, propelling the company's growth without the founder having to shoulder the entire burden themselves.
And that, my friend, is how small startups can scale into billion-dollar empires. But of course, it's not just about raising money, it's about what you do with it, and that's where those billionaire skills come into play.
So we've got this company right, and it's blowing up thanks to OPM. But how do we make sure it's actually profitable? Because a billion-dollar valuation doesn't mean much if you're not making money.
You're absolutely right. And Alex really emphasizes this point. It's not about what you sell, it's about what you buy.
Okay, I think I'm following. You're saying it's about getting those incredible deals up front, right? Like on raw materials or manufacturing costs.
Exactly. Alex uses Amazon and Tesla as examples. Amazon, they've got these tiny margins, but on massive volume. While Tesla has higher margins, but on fewer cars. It's finding that sweet spot for your business model.
So it's not just about selling a ton, it's about selling smart. Now, Alice also dives into some pretty interesting assets. They talk about art being a favorite for billionaires.
It's true. They're not stashing gold bars. It's more like Picasso's and Warhol's.
So why art? It's got to be more than just a status symbol, right?
Well, I mean, it's a status symbol, but there are practical reasons too. High-value art is relatively easy to store and transport, and it's less regulated than traditional investments.
And I'm guessing it tends to go up in value over time.
Exactly, especially during inflation. So it's a hedge against economic uncertainty. Plus, there's only one Mona Lisa, right?
Right.
That scarcity makes it valuable in a way that other assets just aren't.
Makes sense. Now, Alex doesn't shy away from the potential downsides of this whole billionaire lifestyle either.
No, they don't. And I appreciate that. Because that pursuit of wealth can come with some serious personal costs.
Like what?
Well, think about it. The pressure, the potential for burnout, the strain it can put on relationships. It's not easy.
And they even touch on the ethics of certain industries, right? Like how some billionaires made their fortunes through some pretty questionable means.
It's true. And that brings up a bigger point about responsible wealth creation. Just because you can make money from something doesn't mean you should. You have to think about the impact of your actions.
It's like that saying, with great power
comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
Now here's where Alex throws a curveball. They claim that most billionaires share this almost sociopathic obsession with money and success.
That's a bold statement for sure.
Yeah.
And we got to be careful with generalizations like that.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder about the psychology of it all, right? Totally. Like, are they born with this drive or is it something they develop over time? Yeah. It's like, what comes first, right? The ambition or the millions?
It's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't think there's one easy answer. But here's where Alex really brings it home. They say it all boils down to two essential skills: decision-making and persuasion.
Really? And those are more important than any specific business strategy, even more than having a ton of money to begin with.
Absolutely. Because think about it. You could have the best idea in the world, but if you can't make smart decisions under pressure or persuade investors to get on board, you're not going to get very far.
So it's not just about being a smooth talker, right? It's about strategic thinking, A&D influence.
Exactly. And the best part is anyone can develop these skills. It's like Alex says, your mind is a muscle. You have to exercise it, challenge it to see real growth.
I love that analogy, and it makes me think about all the resources that are out there to help us do just that. We've got books, courses, mentors. There's so much we can tap into.
It all comes down to never stop learning, right? Always be refining those critical thinking skills and that ability to communicate effectively. It's a lifelong journey, but the rewards are huge.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of billionaires, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's a lot we can learn from these folks, even if we don't necessarily want to be billionaires ourselves.
Absolutely. It's about taking those valuable lessons, those aha moments, and figuring out how they fit into our own lives and goals.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the money, right? It's about making smart decisions, reaching our full potential, and living a life that feels meaningful. And on that note, here's something to think about. What if you had those billionaire resources? What problem would you solve? What impact would you make on the world?
Keep those questions in mind, because you never know. Maybe one day we'll be deep diving into your success story.